Welcome to A Moment of Xen. Time to sit back and relax as model, actress, mentor, and supermom Xen Sams takes you on a sexy and wild ride, covering the latest in film, fashion, pop culture, cryptocurrency, fintech, cannabis, and entertainment from the millennial mom's perspective. Here's your host, Xen Sams.
Welcome back in New York, tri-state area, and beyond. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Xen Sams. Here's to celebrating over 6.5 years on air, and this marks episode 251. Welcome to 2026. Tonight, we're bringing you a feature of the month, spotlighting a woman who has quietly helped architect an entirely new conversation at the intersection of science, women's health, and longevity. Our guest is Lana Kerr, founder, entrepreneur, and category creator behind the Lumisque skincare line, home of CO2 Lift, the globally recognized platform. This conversation lives under the headliner, The Long Game, Lana Kerr on intelligence, intention, and the architecture of legacy. And the topic is not products, it's evolution. How a founder moves from building momentum to building meaning, from execution to authorship, and from business success to long-term legacy through books, film, podcast, and storytelling that reshapes women's health. In the Elevated Experiences series brought to you by MTK Group New York, joining me is Kirsten DeCook, a family travel creator and entrepreneur behind Kirsten Brook Travels on social media. She's traveled to more than 19 countries with her 2 children, both under 5, and has built a platform rooted in real travel family service, not highlight reels, not fantasy itineraries, but lived, practical, modern experience. In the Clean Collective segment brought to you by Society Brands and Crunchy, joining me today is Natalie Lefebvre, founder of Legacy Life. That's life with a Y. Natalie is on a mission to heal, educate, and empower through preventative and regenerative medicine while shining a necessary light on where toxins quietly hide in everyday life and how informed choices are radically changing long-term health outcomes. We're chatting the toxins we ignore and the ones hurting us most right beneath our nose. In today's Brain Blueprint series brought to you by the Melillo Centers, the conversation speaks directly to parents navigating autism, but not from a place of fear or overwhelm, instead from strategy, structure, and science. We're going to be joined by Len Arcuri. He's a strategic parenting advisor, founder of All-In Parent Coaching, and host of the top-ranked Autism Parenting Secrets podcast with nearly 1 million downloads. We're also going to be joined by our co-contributor, Dr. Robert Melillo, clinician, #1 brain researcher, and author of Disconnected Kids. Stay tuned for Dr. Robert Melillo and Len Arcuri coming up next right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Xen is brought to you by Skin by Sari. Nationally recognized injector Sari Cats is redefining cosmetic treatments with an approach that's subtle, precise, and confidence-driven. Whether you're new to injectables or looking for an expert touch, Sari creates results that enhance your natural features. Never mask them. Discover what personalized aesthetics should feel like. To learn more, visit skinbysari.com. or follow @SkinBySari on Instagram.
Welcome back, New York tri-state area and beyond. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Xen Sams. Welcome back to today's Brain Blueprint segment brought to you by the Melillo Centers. Today's conversation speaks directly to parents navigating autism, not from a place of fear or overwhelm, but from strategy, structure, and science. We're going to go from chaos to clarity. We're going to give you a brain-based, systems-driven blueprint for navigating autism in a world of noise. Because parents today aren't short on information. They're drowning in it. Conflicting advice, social media trends, well-meaning opinions, and the pressure to act fast without a clear plan. Today is about replacing noise with clarity and panic with precision. Joining me is Len Arcuri, strategic parenting advisor, founder of All-In Parent Coaching, and host of the top-ranked Autism Parenting Secrets podcast with nearly 1 million downloads. He's a former CPA, CFO, and Six Sigma Master Black Belt. Len brings systems thinking into parenting, shaped by raising his son Rai, diagnosed with autism at 18 months and now thriving. And as always, I'm joined by my co-contributor, Dr. Robert Melillo, clinician, neuroscientist, best-selling author, and founder of the Melillo Method. Now, before we begin, here's why this matters. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 1 in 36 children in the U.S. is now diagnosed with autism. Yet many families are left navigating fragmented advice without a clear neurological framework. Research shows outcomes improve most when intervention is early, targeted, and properly sequenced, not when parents attempt everything all at once. That's the brain blueprint we're going to be unpacking today. Welcome to the show, superstars.
Thank you, Zen.
Thank you very much.
Len, thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Robert Melillo, thank you so much for contributing to our Expert on the Microphone series. So excited to have you on.
Always great to be here.
All right, Len, I'm going to start with you. So parents, Len, are often told to trust their instincts, but instinct without structure can lead to panic. And your shift came when you stopped reacting and started strategizing, if you will. So what changed for you when you approached autism through systems instead of emotion?
Yeah, well, thanks for that question. And what really changed for me was just how I was even looking at my role in this, because, initially I was reacting very emotionally. An autism diagnosis is extremely hard to receive for a parent. And initially I was kind of pretending there really wasn't a problem. I was hoping it would just go away, and that, basically, if it didn't go away, that there would be a quick fix, and kind of looking for someone to tell me what to do. But there was a lot of anxiety underneath it all. And what really shifted was the moment that I looked at what was happening and kind of replaced the fear and the overwhelm with a sincere confidence and optimism. And that only happened after claiming the role as the CEO of my child, my son Rai, his journey. And the idea of kind of claiming that ownership and stepping into that role was something I know I didn't want to do initially, but it's the absolute key first move in order to actually develop an approach that actually can be effective to support your child.
Wow. And what stands out is how you moved from emotional triage to intentional leadership. And behavioral neuroscience shows parental regulation directly impacts a child's nervous system. So clarity in the parent isn't optional. It's neurological, right?
No doubt. And you touched on a key point, and this came up in your show a couple of weeks ago about parent regulation and how important that is, because it's impossible for a parent to ultimately do what we really want to do, which is to make great decisions. You can't do that if you're dysregulated.
And so, Len, from your perspective, the first question I often ask parents is, has anybody tried to explain to you what's actually happening in your child's brain? Like, what is autism? And, what are the realities around that? And for me, almost 100% of the time, the answer is no. And we've discussed this. So what is your perspective on that? How important do you think that is for parents to understand that? And, what are parents typically told around these issues?
Right. Yeah, no, it's incredibly important. And that goes to what I was saying before about this heightened awareness. What's really happening? And you talk about it all the time, Dr. Melillo, like people don't really look at it in terms of what's the current state of what's happening with your child. And so that heightened awareness is key. And then the big mistake or trap that I think parents fall into is just falling into where they're just addressing the symptoms and never getting at the root cause of what's going on with their child. And every child's unique, and there's definite root causes that are relevant for a particular child that may not be relevant for others. So a lot of this comes down to a true root cause approach, not just addressing symptoms, because the autism landscape is basically one big hamster wheel where you get a diagnosis based on symptoms to get this label, this diagnosis, and you use that for purposes of getting coverage to then do therapies and interventions that address those symptoms. There's nothing about the root cause. And what you've done so powerfully is to help identify for parents, wait a second, there's a huge root cause that everyone's missing. which, one of those root causes that you talk about is the imbalance, the brain imbalance, the hemispheric imbalance, and that needs to be addressed before a lot of the other things that people might be recommending to you. Those are likely not going to stick unless you address that key root cause. And so that's I think the art of this is for parents to have really good educated guesses on which root causes to focus on and not to throw the kitchen sink at their child.
Yeah, it's overwhelming. As a parent, and I love that Dr. Melillo asked you that question, because this opens up Pandora's box really in terms of what we can cover here. But parents today are really faced with cognitive overload, like you said, and research shows overwhelm directly impairs decision making. I mean, you're torn, right? You're being pulled left and right. So how do you help parents filter advice without shutting down and decide what truly belongs in their child's plan?
Yeah, well, parents definitely aren't set up for success, and it's not their fault. That's one thing I want to say at the outset. And honestly, there's a lot of people out there who want to advise and recommend to parents what to do for their child, what to do for themselves. So the way I've discerned it's the most powerful way of helping parents is not pretending to be the guru that's going to tell them what to do. So really, it comes down to parents, what they really need is somebody walking alongside them to, again, see things more clearly and to ultimately discern, because they know their child best, what root causes make the most sense to focus on. And yes, with consultation with medical practitioners and the team of advisors. So setting up that org chart with the parent as the CEO at the top, that's really important. You need good advisors, but ultimately parents do have untapped capacity to make these decisions. They may not feel like they're qualified, but they absolutely are. And the key thing I help parents really tap into is what I would call informed intuition. Because yes, parents have an intuition, but sometimes your intuition can be kind of misguided in terms of your habits and your experience. So for parents to get more informed and then to truly tap into what's right for their child, their guidance system is likely to be much more accurate than any other advisor, including myself as an advisor for them. So so for me, it's about them truly owning and leading and making these decisions. And if they're doing anything that's getting in the way of that, where sometimes as parents, we're well-intentioned, but we get in our own way. And if we're in our own way, we're in our child's way. I help them kick to the curb what's holding them back. And again, it differs from parent to parent.
Wow. Well, this gives parents permission to stop chasing everything, right? And performance science is very clear. Overwhelmed leaders make poor decision makers. Strategy really does restore agency. So I love that you give them a nice blueprint. Now, Dr. Melillo, one of the biggest misconceptions in autism is confusing behavior with brain function. So how does understanding brain imbalance change the way parents are now going to interpret behavior?
Well, as we talked about, like Len was just saying, the people are not told. And that's because most practitioners honestly don't know. They don't understand the brain. And the brain is incredibly dynamic and complex. But when you look at the symptoms, and even though there's a wide variety, and one of the things I've been working on, we published a paper on this in 2009, and we're going to publish a really big paper on this, is really coming up with a universal model that explains everything, every different version of autism, and understanding it from all the symptoms, what's happening in the body and the brain and all of that from a root cause perspective. But when you look at the symptoms, you have to be able to, you can only explain them by understanding this imbalance between different networks in the brain. Like when you look at stimming or tics, which is a very, very common symptom that you see in almost everybody with autism, or repetitive behaviors, where does that come from? There's an area in the left side of the brain called the premotor area, Brodmann area 6. And when it's overactive, that area creates repetitive physical movement or unwanted, unnecessary stimming or tics, or the rocking or the running back and forth or jumping up and down. And the right side on that exact same side inhibits it. So normally we start it and then the right brain stops it. And that balance isn't there. If we look at OCD behaviors, same thing in the frontal area of the brain on the left side. There's an area that causes obsessive thoughts. There's another area that causes compulsive behavior. On the right side, you would balance that. When we look at emotional regulation, there, different emotions. Anger is a left brain emotion. being able to stop anger and have, the ability not to go through a tantrum and get violent or angry or aggressive is the right brain. So, understanding this imbalance, even the way it regulates the immune system and the balance of the sympathetic and parasympathetic, like, a lot of people are told that the gut symptoms are the root cause, and it's not. It starts in the brain, but it affects the gut. But they affect the gut differently and the immune system differently. One side creates inflammation. The other side is anti-inflammatory. And there's all different networks that can be out of balance, but the root cause is essentially this imbalance that is between these networks, and the different networks in combination makes up all the different combinations and flavors that we see in autism, but it's all the same root cause. And so understanding that, parents, I remember I went to a conference once and I went to all different lectures, and every lecture was about a different problem in autism: B12, folic acid, digestive enzymes, motor problems, sensory problems. And if I was a parent, I was like, oh my God, my child has, 100 different problems, and they all, overwhelming, as opposed to stepping back and saying, no, it's actually one problem that has multiple features to it, but it's really one problem, which makes it
So
more.
I have a question. So are you saying that your brain, the Melillo method and the brain balance method that you use at your centers, has the ability to reinvigorate some of those areas in the brain that remain inactive when they should be active? Do you have the ability to stimulate those areas that are otherwise underactive to create that harmony?
Well, that's the idea. We want to, as you've mentioned, neuroplasticity through stimulation, activation, and our program, we can actually create balance in those networks. And there's nothing preventing that, because in most cases with autism, there's no damage in the brain or injury. And in fact, as we've talked, many of them are geniuses with that left brain. And the fact that, there is actually no root genetic mutation that is the cause of it. That's another misconception.
Right.
There's nothing really preventing us from changing it other than knowing how to do it.
This is such proprietary information, because at least you're, at the very, well, not the, it's the very minimum. That's what all practitioners should be doing. But I love that you have the advanced technologies, the advanced knowledge and research to be able to go in there and really help recalibrate when things are just not balanced. Now, Len, many parents feel sidelined once professionals enter the picture. Okay. So why do you believe the parent, not the protocol, is the most powerful intervention?
Yeah, well, there's no question that the only constant in this whole thing is the parent. Protocols will change, but the parent, again, is the absolute key. And I know I didn't feel qualified to step into that role. But again, that goes into, there can only be a true decision maker in chief, and it has to be the parent. And it doesn't mean that you have to learn as much as practitioners that you have on your team. Just like a CEO in a company isn't an expert on every facet. They hire the right people to advise them and to execute, perhaps. But the parent definitely, don't make the mistake I made, right? Like hoping you guess that right protocol and that solves anything, or if you find that one provider's got all the answers. I realized early on, nobody was coming to save my son and to tell me what to do. And it had to be me and my wife, Cass, aligning and stepping into that role fully, which I know parents may hesitate, but it's true.
You have to.
Nobody knows your
experts.
child better than you. And the person who will most likely make the right call is you, as opposed to some other expert. But that doesn't mean that it's not your responsibility to assemble the right team and choosing what providers to work with. That's a huge part of this. Yeah. Because having a good medical provider, having other practitioners, but I find many times parents hire the wrong people because they don't take the time at the outset to think about who would be a fit for me and my child. And that's where those are the key decisions that were made early on.
So this is where I want to come back to you, Dr. Melillo. So brain lateralization is rarely explained, yet uneven hemispheric development can impact language, sensory processing, and even regulation is what I've learned through all our segments. So, what role does brain lateralization play in diagnosis and treatment planning?
Well, again, all of this starts with development. And one of the things that one of my area of expertise is actually looking at human brain development, which is unique. So, again, why do we get these imbalances? What is normal lateralization? One of the thing that makes the human brain most unique is the fact that we have very different right and left brains, and that's an advantage. But it also increases pressure and vulnerability. How does it get that way? It happens really starting in the womb. So the right brain is developing first in the womb and for the first 3 years. And then the left brain kicks in and develops for the next 3 years. And after 6 years, this forms the foundation of the right and left brain. And the human brain is unique in that we're the only brain on the planet that 75 to 80% of our brain develops outside of the womb. Every other animal, almost all of their brain develops inside the womb in a controlled setting. So all of those sequences of development, little things like how they crawl, when they walk, how they move, when they talk, all of those things matter tremendously for at least the first 6 years of life. And so any little thing can go wrong, and that really is very important. But as we said, we're dealing with the brain, and the brain deals with everything. And this is why, even though understanding the root cause and a parent needs to have a treatment plan that makes sense with real goals and real outcomes that are objectively measured, not just managing symptoms. But through all of that, when we're working with kids, we see all these different changes in their emotions and feelings, and some of it looks great, some of it looks bad. But, that's why a parent like Len, or having somebody like Len to coach other families to be able to say, okay, this is what's going to happen. This is how you handle it. You need to manage it, and managing their behaviors and managing their life and getting through that, is this, no matter, even if you're addressing the core problem like we do and making positive changes, what the parent's role is huge. And for every parent we have, they are the ones doing the home therapies. They are the therapist. So having someone that can coach them on that and give them perspective from years of experience is something that can really save them a lot of heartache and really help them get a better outcome. That's why, I often recommend people to reach out to Len so that they can tap into his experience, especially a new parent who's just getting the diagnosis.
Yeah, and this really shifts intervention from symptom chasing to root cause. And I love that narrative. And parents stop seeing deficit and start seeing imbalance that can be addressed. And that's the most important thing. Now, Len, let's talk about speed. Speed matters, but panic derails progress, right? So, how can parents move decisively without burning out?
Yeah, ironically, it does require them to slow down before they speed up. And so the key word for me is discernment. It's for a parent to really discern what are the best moves to make now. And again, that means ultimately doing less, not more. And it means what you choose to focus on, where you're spending your time, energy, and money. Is it on the right root causes that are most relevant right now for your child? And there's a process to get that clarity. And if parents do that and they focus on a few interventions that are a really good fit and they do those really well, progress accelerates. But if you're doing 12 things at once based on people around you, people making recommendations, then you'll spread yourself too thin. You won't execute anything well. And that just creates more friction, and progress will be minimal, if at all, if you're not really. So it really comes down to the right focus. And again, doing less, not more.
There you go. And calm, focused action always outperforms fear-based urgency, right? Emotionally and neurologically. And that's what leadership is about. Now, let's talk about the long-term outlook, Dr. Melillo. So every parent eventually asks, will my child thrive? What does the research say about long-term outcomes when intervention is brain-based and sequenced?
I think it's pretty clear that even if the treatment is more symptom based, the outcomes in general with treatment is better than without. I mean, I think that's very clear. And there's been studies going back for years from University of Connecticut and before showing that, with treatment, that there was a specific percentage of non-speaking children that will speak. So, and that's a lot what we work with, obviously, which are the most challenging and complex, but most rewarding. So, I think that it's clear that the outcomes are better. But as Len said, there's so many different treatments out there. And for me, the key is that the treatment should be a teamwork between the center, the doctor, and the parents, and any other therapists that are out there that want to be involved. And it should be goal-directed and measurable. So it's not just a hope and a prayer. You shouldn't just give them a treatment and say, well, let's hope they feel better or let's hope they seem better. It should be, okay, these are going to be objective functional measurements that we can use to know that we are heading towards these goals and that we have goals and they're specific, and that, the way we design our programs is goals are measurable every day in multiple areas. You can see, is my child improving? Are they getting closer to these functional goals that should be appropriate for their age and development? And this is something that builds confidence and lets you know, okay, this is, it's more than just hope. I see these changes. Symptoms can be confusing. So that's not a good way to just measure improvement. Functional measurements should be used as the guide, and it should be goal-directed and measurable. And that is a way that builds confidence, and you know that you're not wasting time.
Wow. Now, isn't this grounded hope? When intervention aligns with brain development, improvements really do extend across the lifespan. So I love what you're saying. Well, we are at the end of our date, my dear friends. Thank you both so much for joining us. Len, what a pleasure chatting with you today. I mean, you gave me some insight, and I know our listeners and viewers feel the same way, that we're practical, that we're simple, and really easy to implement. So thank you so much for your knowledge.
Thank you so much.
Parents, you don't need any more information. You need clarity. You need strategy over fear, sequence over chaos, and leadership over perfection. And that's exactly what Len Arcuri and Dr. Robert Melillo just did. So thank you, Len, for bringing systems and sanity to this space. And of course, a nice big thank you again to the good doctor for anchoring us in the science. To learn more, you could go directly to Len Arcuri's website. It's autismparenting.secrets.com. allinparent.com. And of course, you can check them out on the gram at Autism Parenting Secrets. And if today's Brain Blueprint segment resonated with you, share it with a parent who needs clarity more than comfort. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. That was the Brain Blueprint segment brought to you by the Melillo Centers. You can check out drrobertmelillo.com and check them out on the gram at Dr. Robert Melillo. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Xen is brought to you by the Melillo Method Centers, where hope truly lives, specializing in ADHD, dyslexia, autism, and other neurological challenges. Dr. Robert Melillo and his team create personalized treatment plans that go beyond symptom management. Using advanced neuroscience, they help children and adults reach their fullest potential. Families worldwide choose the Melillo Method for answers and results. Begin your journey to better brain health at drrobertmelillo.com.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Welcome to the feature of the month right here on WOR, where we feature exceptional women, trailblazers in their field. Now, according to Harvard Business Review, the most profound leadership shifts don't happen at the beginning of success. They actually happen after momentum is achieved, when leaders stop optimizing for growth and start optimizing for actual meaning. That's the reason my guest is in right now, Lana Kerr, whose work lives at the intersection of science, women's health, and longevity, the founder of Lumisque Skincare, home of CO2 Lift. Now, it's not about business. It's not about books. It's about more than that. It's about documentaries. It's about podcasts, and it's about legacy and what it actually means when a woman stops building for momentum and starts building for the long game. Lana, welcome to the show, superstar.
Oh, Zen, it's so good to be here again.
Well, first, congratulations. Not just on what you've built, but on having the discernment to recognize when it's time to evolve. Okay, my friend.
Thank you.
So as we head into 2026, I want to say this publicly, truly from the bottom of my heart, that there are no coincidences. And over the last 3 years, I was just talking about this with Tyler, I've had a front row seat to your journey, watching you move from execution to authorship, from building a company to shaping a narrative, not louder, not flashier, but clear, braver, and more intentional. And it's been an honor to help hold a space for that evolution. And I'm excited to walk into this next chapter with you. So that's my official welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. That's just beautiful. And I'm so glad that you're part of this. As we just said, it was practically a third of the journey.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, according to the Kauffman Foundation, nearly 90% of startups fail. And one of the most cited reasons is lack of early perspective, not lack of intelligence or effort. And most founders simply don't yet know what questions to ask. So when you look back at building Lumisque and creating CO2 Lift, what do you see now that simply wasn't visible to you at the beginning?
Yeah. At first, I thought we're selling a product. We're building a product story. But then very soon I recognized that we're actually changing the way people think. We're changing the way people think about healing, about regeneration, about longevity, as well as the fact too, when I look back, I was surprised at the resistance that we had to, for instance, the CO2 Lift V. I didn't realize that we'd have so much pushback from women, because it wasn't the science. We had the science, but we were, as women, used to having the conversations about sexual wellness. And so there was definitely some resistance there, but that only helped fuel my desire to continue pushing forward, and really made me see how important it is to change that story.
And when you look at the research, McKinsey research, category creators capture up to 76% of a market's profit pool, while followers compete for what remains. But category creation requires conviction long before validation, and you know this best. So you didn't follow the skincare market. You created something that didn't exist yet. What anchored you to that vision when others just couldn't see it yet?
Yeah. Well, a new category comes about when you can solve a problem that people didn't recognize could be solved. And that's what really CO2 Lift does, because blood flow, when you think about it, it really is the way that health is transported throughout the body. And CO2 Lift does that very effectively. So while it is recognized as they understand the science, the delivery system is what is new. There was no way to really put CO2 into the body in a topical form. And so that's what we did with CO2 Lift. So because circulation and blood flow is what keeps us youthful. And when that starts to slow down, really, how can you accelerate that? Well, the CO2 Lift does that very nicely. And what kept me anchored to that was really the science. We kept on validating what we have with science, and that really kept me focused and kept me passionate about really bringing this information to the general public.
Yeah, and durability over trends, right? Like, kudos to you right there. Let's talk about that aspect of the business, because data from CB Insights shows that the most wellness brands that fail do so within 3 to 5 years, often because they chase trends instead of principles. And you have your foundation very strongly built. What non-negotiables did you put in place early that allowed this work to endure cycles and skepticism and imitation?
Yes. Well, certainly our clinical integrity was always very important to us. We invested heavily in understanding the science, into double-blind studies, things that really no one could poke holes into. That was very important to us. Also to just long-term outcome as opposed to a short-term sale. That was also important. And then education over mass appeal. Again, because when you're in a new category, what's important is for people to understand the problem that we're solving and understand the solution, for them to be an adoption of the category or of the solution that we're presenting to them.
Yeah, it's definitely a full psychological understanding of, consumer behavior. And it really, really does come down to understanding the process and the plan from every aspect and every pillar, because it's of no use to anybody if there's only one aspect that you're an expert in. I think that you have a grasp on all of it, from the branding to the clear messaging to down to the fonts, down to everything, because everything matters. Optics matter. And, everything that glitters is gold in this industry. And people do judge a book by its cover. And then when they get to the best part, when they get to the core of it and they see a product that's sustainable, that works, that's how legacy is engineered, not through speed, but through standards. So, this is where the conversation gets, trailblazer-like, which leads me into your next chapter, the documentaries and film. And when you talk about medical research and biomedical research and funding and anything focused specifically on women's health outcomes, which is the category that you're in when it comes to entertainment, storytelling really often becomes the bridge before policy and science catch up. So your storytelling efforts are based in truth, they're based in science, and they're based from personal perspective. Why does documentary and film feel like the right medium right now? And what can visual storytelling really accomplish that, from your perspective, current business platforms cannot?
Well, certainly the emotional component, the emotional truth. I think that we women, and there's very different types of stories, but I'll start with the fact that I love acting. In fact, I'll tell you the story when I was in university and I was doing, accounting was my major, and I did an acting class, and I remember calling my mother in Jamaica and telling, I think I'm going to switch my major to acting. And she was like, are you crazy? So it's funny how things come full circle, because now we're at the point that we need to tell stories, because women need to see themselves, and it's almost like a safe way for them to understand what the problems that they're facing, that they didn't even realize that were fixable.
Right.
And so we're, documentaries, we're coming out with one, Private Parts, that's coming out this year, which I'm really excited about, which follows the journey of women, 5 women with intimate issues. And that's going to be an incredible story. And of course, our podcast that we just launched, the Going Deep, which we'll talk more about that, I know, later on, but it allows us to tell the stories so that there's an emotional connection. So it will change the psychology of women, I feel, when you make it relatable to them, when they can see themselves, see their daughters in there, see their sisters in their friends, their children in that story. And that will definitely change the way we speak to each other in terms of this area of longevity, or I like to call hergevity, going forward.
We're going to coin that, hergevity. Yes, and Lana, that's exactly precisely the point. That's when storytelling stops being marketing and becomes advocacy, right? Whether it's emotional advocacy, demystifying sexual stigmas, women's health, and that distinction really matters.
Yeah, and something, Zen, hergevity, I'm coming out with a book, which I didn't say, we're coming out with it. We're looking to about June to have that published. And the title of it is Hergevity, the Female Longevity Code. And it's really approaching longevity from a different lens. We're comparing age, if you think about it, comparing age management to maybe financial management. We start planning financially early. You want to do that.
Right.
And we change directions. We change our investment instruments depending on where we are in our lives. It's the same for women. Unfortunately, today, many people start thinking about that in their 40s and 50s. We need to change the narrative, and women need to see their age through different cycles and start even addressing aging at the time in our lives and when our body's circulation starts to slow down, which is around 25. Let's have a roadmap for how that continues. And so now when we change that narrative, we approach getting into our 40s and 50s with a different energy. We approach it with positivity, with excitement, because we've been prepared for that. So that's kind of a little snippet about what the book is about.
So let's talk about your media architecture, where you're headed with your podcast. So why was it essential for you to create space for both lived experience and your scientific rigor through your podcasts? And I know that you have a lot you have a lot to unpack on the 2 podcasts that you have right now. So talk to me about that balance.
Well, first of all, Zen, congratulations on your success. It's clear from just listening to how you host that you would be successful in this, and congratulations. And I'm just glad to be one of your segments. For particularly, I mean, we have the Lifted by Science, which is where we bring on experts to share how they feel about the technology, and I think that's important because it brings credibility. It really makes the consumer and the audience feel comfortable that you have these key opinion leaders or these leaders in the field using the brand and loving the brand and showing all the use cases of it. So I'm totally loving that we have that segment. The Passion Project is really going deep because it's not so much on the CO2 Lift brand. It's more using it from the same philosophy as Hergevity, which means, it's real, honest conversation with people of different backgrounds. I mean, you're talking about you have people in actors or directors or business people or just thinkers, just various different types of audience that are on the show, having real conversations, sharing with us their timing, the pressures that they've had, and how they've overcome these challenges. And really, it's more than just we're hoping to inspire. I mean, I think that we can get inspiration from so many things. For me, my objective is to see yourself in any of these different individuals and see how you can have a better quality of life by listening to their real stories and the real truths that they've gotten from their lives. So that's the objective right now. And we'll see how, like everything, Zen, it kind of changes, and we'll see how that turns out. Well, we're just getting started and we're launching that in February.
Well, congratulations on all your success. I mean, your Lifted sounds like an incredible level up to really separate those pro voices. And I absolutely love the title. And I love that the ED at the end is really kind of science geared, because you can also, I mean, obviously that's for education, Lifted by Science and education as well was the first thing that obviously sticks out to the trained eye. But it's the Going Deep podcast that I'm so proud of you, because now stepping into these shoes takes a balance, and I know that you're ready, and I'm so excited to not only feature you, but continue to see this growth, because the world is your oyster with everything going on, and that balance is rare. And honestly, what you're doing with both of these podcasts, it's intellectually honest. It doesn't just ask women to choose between emotion and evidence. You kind of have best of both worlds.
Yes, I
so
love it.
Lastly, I know we're almost out of time here. We're at the end of our date. Too short-lived, my dear. We're gonna have to have a longer date next time. So when you look at startups, especially women startups, okay, when women start businesses at record rates, fewer than 20% of women-led companies actually reach succession or legacy planning stages, the one you're in. And it's often because legacy is discussed way too late in the game. So when your work is looked back on years from now, Lana, what do you hope women say changed for them because you chose to engage, not look away?
Well, this is directed to, I guess, all women. I want them to say that she told the truth or her story, even though it may not have been comfortable. She spoke about things that we weren't necessarily at the time ready to hear, but it was time. And as a result of this conversation, their lives are better. Their daughters are living better quality of lives because they're able to plan their life, just like we talk about financial planning. Age management is like financial management. And I want to feel proud. I feel proud of the thought of it. The fact, because I remember, Zen, when we started having this conversation back in 2018, it was just people were just not ready to hear, particularly when we talk about women's wellness. Right. When we talk about vulva-vaginal health, we're like, what? It's almost like we cursed, a bad word. And, even we couldn't say certain things on air,
Oh, yeah.
And
can't say the V word.
I know. Now it's changing.
We can on our platform,
and now
but
it's
for
changing.
many platforms they can't.
I remember 2019, 2018 or the early part of 2019, we're on today in Texas, and we couldn't say the word, vagina. And now on the same platform we can. So I just love that things are changing. But I would like for women to remember, if I was to be known for something, talking about these uncomfortable conversations and making life better, because women are more aware. Women have, we don't have hang-ups on having those type of conversations because we're talking about quality of life.
Right. Those are honest conversations that need to be had. And that's significance, not just success. I mean, it's clear this chapter of yours is being built with intention. I think that's what sticks out the most, and that's what I love the most about you. So, Lana, I wish you nothing but success. This is perfect timing. 2026, I know that you are going to really trailblaze even further, go where there is no path, and continue to leave this great, big success. I could not be more proud to be part of your journey.
Thank you. Thank you, Xen.
You're welcome. All right, we are at the end of our date, my dear friends. That was the incredible Lana Kerr, founder and CEO of Lumisque Skincare, home of CO2 Lift. That conversation truly hit home, not because of what she's built, but because of how she's built it and who she's chosen to go along the way. Now, there's a line from Harvard Business Review that says that the most impactful leaders eventually stop asking, what am I scaling, and start asking, what am I stewarding? And that's what this chapter is exactly for Lana Kerr. She's shown that intelligence doesn't just have to be loud. Leadership doesn't require permission, and that women don't need to wait until the end of their careers to think about legacy. And as someone who's had the privilege of walking alongside Lana, shaping conversations and holding space over the last 3 years, I'll say this, that there truly are no coincidences, my friends. I'll remind you that, only alignment. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR. That was our feature of the month right here on iHeartRadio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Xen is brought to you by CO2 Lift. As we age, our skin loses moisture and elasticity, causing wrinkled skin. You can reverse this aging process with CO2 Lift. CO2 Lift utilizes the powerful benefits of carbon dioxide to lift, tighten, and regenerate your skin. This simple, painless at-home carboxytherapy treatment is scientifically proven to reverse the aging process. You will see reduction in wrinkles, increase in luminosity, and improve pigmentation, sagging, skin tone, and radiance.
For more information or to order CO2 Lift, ask your skincare professional or go to co2lift.com.
Welcome back, New York tri-state area and beyond. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Xen Sams. Welcome back to the Elevating Experiences series brought to you by MTK Group, New York. Today's conversation sits at the intersection of lifestyle, technology, and how modern families actually live. Because here's the problem, and let's call it out. Family travel as an industry hasn't evolved fast enough for millennial parents. It's fragmented, it's overwhelming, it's built for either luxury couples or chaos with very little in between. The problem? Well, family travel is in fact broken. And the solution is immersive, tech-driven experiences that are rewriting the rules for modern parents like us. Joining me is Kirsten DeCook. She's a family travel creator and entrepreneur behind Kirsten Brook Travels. She has traveled to more than 19 countries with her 2 children, both under 5, and has built a platform grounded in real family travel, not highlighting reels, not fantasy itineraries. She's also preparing to launch Roam Together, an AI-powered family travel platform designed to solve what the industry has ignored for years, how families actually plan, move, and experience the world. Kirsten, welcome to the show, superstar.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you back. Welcome back to the show. I remember we had you on almost 3 years ago when you were just starting off, and so were we at that point. But it's so nice to have you back and see all your success and progress.
Yes, same to you guys. It's been amazing. And yeah, last time we talked, I think I had a 1-year-old, and now I have a 4 and a 2-year-old. So it's crazy.
And you're still traveling.
Still traveling, yes. No plans of slowing down.
Well, that's what I love about you, and that's why you are my expert on the microphone. So let's get started. So from a millennial mom's perspective, Kirsten, and someone who covers emerging lifestyle industries, I see a clear disconnect between how families live today and how travel is still designed. So from your vantage point, what is fundamentally broken about family travel right now, and why are parents feeling more overwhelmed than ever?
Yeah, I think that most travel just still isn't designed for families, especially families with young kids. And parents leave their routines at home and enter unfamiliar environments. And they're not just planning a trip, they're having to manage sleep schedules, emotions, logistics, all the gear, and expectations of having a good time all at once. And we also worry about bothering others or things going wrong. And with all of that combined, travel just becomes more mentally exhausting instead of exciting like it should be.
It's exactly. It's such a hard topic because you're spending so much money, so much effort, so much time to go away to ultimately relax, and it's just not the case most often. And it's not that parents don't want experiences. The system just hasn't caught up, right?
Totally. Yeah.
So let's talk about disruption, because artificial intelligence isn't just changing tech companies, it's changing actual experiences. So how can AI and smarter technology actually reduce stress, improve the planning process, and elevate the family travel experience instead of overcomplicating it?
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I like to use AI as kind of my personal assistant to help me make decisions. And because parents don't need more information, what they need is clarity. And I think AI can remove the guesswork around, timing, pacing, and logistics for family travel. And it helps families plan trips that will fit into their real life and their family's life and needs. And I think that confidence that AI can give us can help reduce stress before the trip even starts. And I think that it could be a game changer for sure.
Well, that's the shift, right? Technology should serve families, not overwhelm them.
Yeah,
And
for
and
sure.
so when you talk about elevated experiences, they're not about doing more. They're about feeling more connected, about more present and more confident. So how does immersive travel, exposure to culture and rhythm and adaptability shape children differently than traditional vacations?
Yeah, I think traditional vacations are about, an escape and relaxing versus immersive travel is about living somewhere, even briefly, and really experiencing the culture. Families get to experience daily life the way locals do. And I feel like families are able to, get out of their routine and connect more deeply that way. And kids are able to learn so much about being adaptable, curious, and empathetic, and learning about a whole new culture.
Yeah, that's a powerful distinction, Kirsten, because travel as lived education is a very different perspective, not just time away, right? It really immerses you. And the reality is that as a mom, I'm not going away with my daughter to relax and tune out. I'm going to go somewhere to create memories and, to your point, feel immersed in that culture so we can take something away from it, not just we laid on the beach and had no idea where we went. That's
Yeah,
a different
100%.
kind of that's a different type of mentality, and I don't think parents are on board with that. In the 80s and 90s, parents would book a club med trip, they would go relax on the beach, we would stay at the kids club, we would all reconnect for dinner, but it was very disconnected. I think parents are looking for something entirely different
Yeah, I think parents are
today.
traveling to get out of that routine and really truly connect with their kids. Personally, I think many of my favorite memories with my kids has been traveling with them and getting to experience something new together.
Yeah. Well, this brings us to Rome together.
Yes.
Which feels less like a product and more like a long overdue solution. So, how does Rome Together use artificial intelligence and lived experience to fix what's broken in family travel, and what makes it different for traditional planning platforms?
Yes. So we have been working on Room Together, which is an AI travel planning app for families. We're really excited about it. Traveling with kids just has so many moving parts to it. We're juggling naps, schedules, stroller accessibility, preferences, dietary restrictions, and the planning can feel really overwhelming. And Roam Together brings everything into one organized place. So you can create your own custom family profile that will take into account your nap schedules, time changes, your family's preferences, stroller accessibility, family-friendly accommodations, and more. And our hope for this app is that families will be able to travel confidently instead of feeling stress and have trips that they actually enjoy, not just survive.
Wow, you really put it all together, girl.
We're trying. Yes, we're super excited about it.
So if we zoom out, the
Yes.
problem is in fact outdated systems. The opportunity is emerging technology, and the goal is elevated immersive family experiences, right?
Totally.
So for the parent listening right now who wants to travel but feels stuck, what's the mindset shift and the first actionable step that changes everything?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the first
Download the app.
Yeah, download the app, but it's not ready yet. In like 2 months, it will be out. The first trip with kids is always the scariest for sure. And I think once you do it, your confidence changes. But also, like, just knowing that there's never going to be a perfect time, but the memories are worth it is really what has changed things for me and my thought process behind everything. Because so many people say, oh, I'll just wait until my kids are older to travel. But then things get complicated. You have school schedules to work around. Before you know it, your kids are going to want to be traveling with their friends more than you. And so I think if you're just waiting for the perfect time, that's never going to come. But some of our very best family memories, I don't know about you, come from our trips traveling together. And also, the crazy thing is, people act like family travel is so hard. And I do agree that there are hard parts to it. But I also think taking my kids to the grocery store is hard. So...
Oh, that's definitely hard.
Yeah. So I'm like, if you can take your kids to the grocery store, you can travel with them.
Well, that's the takeaway, right?
Yeah.
And the takeaway is, if you stay empowered, if you stay informed and supported, and you have the proper app helping you, like Roam Together, and we follow your page, we will have all the latest and coolest hacks and travel tips to make sure that this is a seamless experience.
Yes, totally. I'm all about making it as least complicated and stressful as possible, because your time is limited and you want to focus on making those memories, not just trying to survive out there.
That was the Elevating Experiences segment brought to you by MTK Group New York. And that's what it's about: identifying what's broken, spotlighting what's emerging, and showing families what's possible when industries finally start to evolve. You could follow Kirsten at Kirsten Brook Travels, and you can check out roamtogether.com for the latest information on the app. And you can check them out on Instagram at Roam Together Family. And like I said, keep an eye out for the launch of Roam Together, which is an AI-powered family travel platform built for how families live today. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by MTK Group New York. Experience travel without limits. MTK Travel Club, part of MTK Group New York, offers exclusive access to private jet travel, 5-star resorts, and unforgettable luxury experience designed around you. From seamless departures to personalized itineraries, we elevate every moment of your journey. MTK Travel Club makes extraordinary travel effortless. Visit mtkgroupny.com today to discover a new level of luxury.
Welcome back, beautiful New York tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Welcome back to the Clean Collective segment, where clean living meets consumer education, transparency, and legacy building. Brought to you by Society Brands and Crunchy, a clean beauty brand setting a higher standard for ingredient integrity, ethical sourcing, and family-safe formulations. Because here's the truth: the toxins we ignore are often the ones hurting us most, right under our nose. Clean living isn't just a trend, it's preventative medicine. From the products we put on our skin to what we breathe, absorb, and unknowingly accumulate, exposure adds up. And while most people are focused on symptoms, very few are taught how to identify root causes, toxic load, and the long-term impact of everyday choices on longevity and overall health. That's why today's conversation matters. Today's Clean Collective conversation is centered on this idea. The toxins that we are ignoring are the ones hurting us the most, and they're hiding in plain sight. I'm joined by Natalie Lefebvre, the founder of Legacy Life, who's on a mission to heal, educate, and empower people through preventative and regenerative medicine while shining a light on where toxins quietly hide in everyday life in plain sight. Natalie, welcome to the show, superstar.
Oh, hi. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. And I thought your intro was perfect, right on. And I'm so glad to see that you really understand the depths of where these toxins are hiding and how we need to be mindful of what to do to really live a great life and have less suffering.
Yes, and I've been following your page for quite some time now, and I love the narrative. I love what you're promoting. And most people don't wake up thinking about toxic load, right? They wake up thinking about fatigue, brain fog, inflammation, hormone imbalance. And these symptoms are really something that is a universal complaint amongst most adults over 40. But research continues to show that chronic low-level exposure to environmental toxins can disrupt response, right? Immune response, can disrupt endocrine function and even mitochondrial health over time. So I want to start here, Natalie. When you talk about the toxins we ignore, what are the most common exposures people don't realize are quietly impacting their health every single day?
Well, and I want to add, you hit it right on the nail. It's about root cause. What is causing all these things to be dysregulated? So toxins are in the air, in our water, blue light. We first start with the iPhone in the morning. There is so much free medicine, which is sunlight, great sleep. Our brain detoxes in the evening, so we can't have that restful sleep to naturally detox, which our body can naturally heal, naturally detox. But our nervous system sometimes is also so dysregulated because we're constantly on and in the switch. So if your body doesn't feel safe, and I call the nervous system the mother, then we can't naturally detox. We have hormone dysregulation, and it's in our foods. It's in the planes when we're flying. It's an EMF, electromagnetic energy. It's from the charging of our phones that is usually right next to our head. So toxins are truly everywhere. And then it's about how full is your bucket and how much are you ingesting that you're not aware of. For example, arsenic, it's in rice and in chicken. Cadmium is in chocolate. If you're having a beautiful tea of coffee or tea or coffee in the morning, what are they heating that water in? What type of water is in there? A lot of people drink tap water and ice cubes. Like, I just don't touch that anymore. Parasites are in sushi, raw fish. Also,
oh boy. As the list goes on,
yeah.
I'm getting emotional overload. Okay, I want to streamline this. Okay, so what you're saying is such an important distinction because people assume if something is legal or over the counter or popular or sold everywhere, it must be safe. And what you're describing is cumulative exposure, not one dramatic event, but years of silent buildup, right? And that's what I want people to take away. This is where I think the conversation really shifts from reactive to proactive. So traditional healthcare often steps in after something goes wrong, but preventative and regenerative medicine ask a different question. How do we protect health before it's compromised? So how does toxin awareness fit into preventative and regenerative medicine? And why is this approach so critical, Natalie, for long-term vitality and longevity?
Toxin awareness is the baseline of our life because we have so many different groups. We're exposed. If you've got a dog, you probably have Giardia. You have a cat, you have the cat scratch disease, which is Bartonella barbesia. I had it. I love my cat who passed away 5 years ago. And so when we realize that everything we put into our mouth or that comes through the skin, chlorine in the pool water, skin creams, which is why, for example, I love Crunchy. Like, it's a clean makeup brand. I looked into my makeup brand. I set off the alarm system at the airport in Nice, France. And they thought I had, bomb alarm. And I'm like, this is crazy. So I went through it 3 times And the lady at the line said, "Did you put lotion on before getting on the plane?" I'm like, "Yes, I did." And that's when I first became aware, like all these moments in my life about where these toxins can actually come in from. It's makeup, nail polish. There is clean nail polish too.
Wait, you set off the metal detector from the amount of metals in your lotion?
The bomb alarm. Yes. I set it off. I was about to miss the flight. I'm like, is this a joke? And they're like,
that is scary.
yes. And that's when I became aware that skin creams have these metals and toxins in it that I could set off the bomb alarm in the Nice airport and had to go through an interview and be checked. And like they had to look at my passport. And so I've had all these downloads. I had environmental toxins exposure. I found my glyphosate. Yes, it is real, especially in the United States, especially if you love Tex-Mex, and corn, tortilla chips.
I love that you're framing this though as protection, because prevention isn't restrictive. It's empowering. It's about giving people back agency over their health instead of waiting for a diagnosis, right?
Exactly.
So here's where a lot of listeners and viewers get overwhelmed. Once people start learning about toxins, they can feel paralyzed. Just this conversation, right, is elevating anxiety levels. Like everything is dangerous and they're going to feel everything is dangerous and they need to change everything overnight. And that's not realistic. So for someone just beginning this journey, what are the most impactful first steps to reducing toxic exposure without turning clean living into a source of stress or fear?
Yeah. I would say number one, stop worrying. That is an emotional, energetic toxin. So don't worry. Start somewhere. It's okay to go in good time, in your time. Start with one group, start with the second group, and then start with the third group. So definitely be aware of light. Light is medicine that we need, great sleep, and understanding that everything you eat should be organic. The healthier quality of food you have, the better. Water is the elixir of life. Making sure you have clean water. Look at the label because there's some bad waters out there that they give us. So water, water, water. Even if you like coffee, have that coffee later on, but really start in the morning with water, end with water at night. It's the body needs water. We are made of water. I also really think prayer, or if whatever you believe, whatever works for you, whether it's meditation, believing in Mother Earth or God or the universe, whatever it is, calming your mind, calming your nervous system, yoga, and yeah, I don't eat sushi. I don't eat raw fish. I'm very careful with rice because a lot of it has arsenic. I'm a chocoholic. I love chocolate. So I'm very cautious in breeding. Like, I know Brian Johnson did a great video on different chocolates that you can trust. Ice cream has silicon dioxide. Like, so a lot of these products, like it's better to eat a date or berries or puree it, into a coconut yogurt or something. So it's also in our dishwashing liquid, which we then eat. But on the dishwashing detergent, it says do not ingest. So there's a lot of cleaning products,
right,
facial products. But what I say is don't get overloaded. Don't drink fear. Just start somewhere and start with this group. And then, in 1 or 2 months, maybe add on another little thing. And then down the road, another little thing. And you will get there, and just have patience with your timing.
Yes.
And don't, be like, oh my God, it's everywhere. And it is, but
yeah. Now, the Clean Collective segment is brought to you by Crunchy. We mentioned this earlier, which you alluded to is one of your favorite brands. It's a brand that emphasizes ingredient transparency, ethical sourcing, and more importantly, family safe standards. And that's intentional because what we put on our skin matters just as much as what we put in our bodies, right? So why is skincare and personal care such a critical part of toxin reduction? And what should consumers actually be paying attention to when evaluating clean products, quote unquote?
Well, number one, the skin is your outside view of what's going on inside. So if you've got eczema or pimples or anything wrong, rosacea, something's wrong in your gut and something's wrong in general. So pay attention to those signs. And then, the skin is our number one source of where everything can enter. So through the air, if you're near the plane or like the chemtrails that going in, the chlorine. So skin care and makeup, especially for us ladies, I think the number is there's 240,000 products of potential chemicals that can enter into our skin as women. And we need to be really cautious because they're endocrine disruptors. They can affect your neurons, the brain. And so we should be very mindful of the makeup, the lip gloss, the creams, the suntan lotion that we use. And it's really important to understand that increases our toxic load. And it's that daily add-on that we do, or the slow poisoning over time and filling that bucket that is what's going to maybe bring us to suffering in our health with the mitochondria and the cells not being able to fight, because it's that over-inflammation, that chronic inflammation over time that builds up. But there are solutions. I support and promote the blood cleanse. I've looked into all the different blood filtration systems, which if you are heavily toxic, there's the plasma apheresis, cleaning of the plasma. The device that I promote is a full body blood cleanse. I'm not a fan of the EBU because it's over oxygenation, ozonation. You'd probably need 10 of them. And some people are parking and shelving the EBU because there are reactions. So understanding the right mechanisms or IVs for chelation to do that safely, using binders, using the sauna. You guys, everybody should be doing the sauna 4 times a week. That's the way to get those toxins out of your body. Take a binder before. I love Quicksilver Scientific. They have some really great binders. And, you have EDTA. You have a lot of different products. So detoxing is a lifestyle, and we can get ahead of the curve. There's no need to worry. You can be proactive in your life and be preventative. So doing these detoxes, having your celery juice with organic celery juice and being proactive about the sauna, the infrared sauna. I love Clearlight. They have a non-EMF infrared sauna. We can get this stuff out. We can be preventative in our life and not worry about all the other exposure that's coming in, as long as we're constantly excreting,
Right.
being mindful of some of these things like the water and the air and the sushi or whatever, and make.
Oh, yeah. We know Natalie doesn't eat sushi now. Definitely. Don't invite her to a sushi dinner. But Natalie, that education piece, what you just said, and all this information you just gave us, is everything, because marketing terms can be misleading, but ingredients don't lie. And the skin being our largest organ is something people forget far too often, right? Now, legacy life isn't just about individual health. I want to talk about your creation. It's about generational wellness. And I think that's a powerful reframe, especially for parents and caregivers and women who often carry the responsibility of household decisions. So when you say health is a legacy, what does that mean in practice? And how do daily choices today shape long-term outcomes for families?
Health is wealth. And, I really think that the biggest currency is energy. So for me, my morning, for example, starts with a mindful time alone, away from the phone, to really connect with our heart, which is the biggest energy center. And when you can be in that right energy and your nervous system is calm, everything that comes at you, of course, caring for your quality water. I love AquaTrue. That there's a lot of ways that you can really implement certain devices. But yeah, your legacy is giving that on to the next generation. As mothers, I pass on the toxins to my baby. I pass on the toxins in the surrounding around me, in the environment. So our legacy is we are all walking each other home. And to give that energy to others, we we are one, right? There's oneness, there's no separation. And for me, that's my biggest goal, is to really create more awareness of God and consciousness, and understanding that if you can be able to see those things in the field and protect from it, you can be in your good energy, and we can detox naturally. And making sure that we all just like help each other, like you are.
Yeah.
The messaging that you're bringing to the world to create, this awareness, and understand that we do have the tools. We do have the magical power to be able to live our best lives and not have so much suffering, and to hand that over to our parents, to our sisters and our brothers. Like I grew up in the Seychelles Islands. I grew up with nature. So my legacy is to hand that over to others and share the wisdom that I was blessed to have. Whatever we all have, our beautiful gifts to share with the world, and be that voice. So I created Legacy Life, LYFE, to make sure that people are aware of the right labs to do. So I send people to my team, and we send these home lab kits to you. I love the total toxins test from Vibrant. It has 5 different groups. It's the best consolidated test to go, oh, that's where stuff is hiding. These are the detox protocols I need to do in this order. We help and guide people with that. And the other one is the GI map. I love that one because you look at your microbiome. Your microbiome is your immune system. And so that's how we can live a legacy life, with good energy, good, giving, and the circle of life, giving and receiving, and understanding like, where do we find these toxins? How do we upgrade every so often with, good products or devices giving us clean water.
And anyone can reach you, right? Meaning it doesn't have to be, specific to one country or another. You can get these kits and these protocols out to anyone listening.
So I'm global. I speak 6 languages. I live in Germany half the year, Miami, and now Dubai. I can send and connect you to a clinic wherever. So it's a global concierge. And you can connect with me on Island Natalie. I personally answer and check all my messages. And I make sure I connect you to the right team so that you can do these home lab kits wherever you are.
Beautiful. If you want to learn more about Natalie Lefebvre and her work with Legacy Life, that's Legacy Life with a Y, you could visit natalielefebvre.com. You could follow her directly on the gram at island_Natalie and at Legacy Life _. And thank you to Society Brands and Crunchy for supporting conversations that prioritize transparency, ingredient integrity, and long-term health, especially for women and families. That was the Clean Collective segment right here on A Moment of Zen, where clean choices today become healthier legacies tomorrow. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Cleanomic. Cleanomic zip bags are certified compostable. They break down into nutrient-rich fertilizer that nourishes the earth. They're BPA-free, so no harmful chemicals leak into your food. Available in snack, sandwich, quart, and gallon sizes. They ship straight to your door. No more store runs. Plus, get free trash bags for life with the subscription. Protect your food and health from hidden microplastic particles by heading to cleanomic.com today.
Well, that's a wrap, my beautiful tri-state area and beyond. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Do remember to join me right here on A Moment of Zen every Saturday. You could head directly to our website, amomentofzen.com. That's Zen with an X, not a Z, for live listening links and episode downloads in your city. And also remember that we're live on Traverse TV. That's our OTA platform over the air. Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern. We upload directly to our digital streaming platform, YouTube, Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern. And of course, all episodes of A Moment of Zen are available directly on Your Home TV. That's our OTT partner, family-friendly, worldwide digital streaming directly on our channel at mox.yourhometv.com. Thank you for listening to us. It's been an absolute pleasure being your host. Thanks again to all of our sponsors that continue to make this show possible. And remember that happiness is the only thing that multiplies when you share it. We'll be back next week.